Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. This morning, we are doing the XR playlist, and we're lucky enough to have one of my favorite L&D professionals in the world, Alan Natachu, with us as part of the playlist. Oh, and you had such a great session title for this one, and right now I'm forgetting what it's called. It's like
when virtual starts messing with your reality.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. It's so good. And we've got Betty in and Jack is in. Good morning, you guys. Thanks again for joining us this morning. So I was just telling Alan earlier, one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have him on is because he is probably just one of very few people out there that have actually pushed out a VR program to implementation. So I think that's pretty exciting that we actually have his experience to hear about and how things went with his virtual reality program that he pushed out to the University of Madison, Wisconsin, right?
Madison Area Technical College.
Madison Area Technical College. Sorry, I've gotten that wrong a couple of times. And so, everybody, thanks again for coming in. I also want to let you know that this weekend, Saturday, is World VR Day. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the XR playlist this month was because I knew it was World VR Day. There was a speaker that I was supposed to have last week. His name was Steve Bambury. He was broadcasting out of Dubai. He is actually doing a World VR Day celebration by doing a series of sessions in virtual reality about CPD, about professional development. But unfortunately, couldn't get him. We were getting firewalled out of Dubai, and so Crowdcast wasn't working. But celebrate on Saturday, World VR Day. I might do some stuff. I might post it on Slack and on social media about what I'm planning to do. But there is this place that I love going in VR called The Wave, and it's kind of a music festival place that you can go and just have really, really crazy experiences and DJ and bring people together, and it's really, really neat. If you guys want to check it out, I think just search for The Wave VR and you'll see it. It's pretty trippy. It's definitely something that I think like Kristen Hayden Safdie would love it because she's a music festival person. So with that, Alan, I can't wait to hear you talk about your experiences, and thanks again for doing this playlist. And I'm going to hide myself.
All right. So welcome everybody. Good morning. Bouncing off World VR Day, if you're looking for stuff to do, you might check out what's happening in Facebook events, or there's another app called Meetup. I forget the full URL, but it allows you to search different events happening in your community. I know that Madison is having a World VR Day get-together. That's an all-day thing here in Madison, Wisconsin. So if you're looking for stuff to do, but you want to be in the physical realm, check out Facebook or the Meetup website. So today we're going to talk about how to manage VR. I got a love-hate relationship with VR because I love seeing that moment when people get it. VR is one of those things, I know it sounds cliche, I know other people have said it in the past, but VR is one of those things which you have to experience in order to fully appreciate it. I live for that moment when you can tell like the lights turn on and boom, they get it. Right now, VR is very much like early iPhone, iPad adoption. VR is very much a personal device. Much like when the iPhone first came out, much like when the iPad first came out, there is hardly any solution for VR for iPhones and iPads to be managed in a way that would be quickly push out apps, to quickly push out updates. Now we got mobile device management for iPads, iPhones, even Android phones, and that took about a 5-year transition from the initial release of the iPhone, iPad to 5 years in maturity where solutions were getting into place. So that's a little bit of history and a little bit of where I'm going to go through in this particular TLDC cast. I'm going to take a step back and we're going to talk about VR the easiest way to manage. The easiest methods of VR to manage are desktop VR experiences or Google Cardboard VR experiences, because they're easy to share. They're easy to maintain. And most of the time, the programs that you use, like Adobe Captivate has now VR experiences. There's several freeware applications that allow you to create 360 experiences. You can search YouTube and find 360 experiences. It's very easy to use different websites, different online tools to create these really awesome 360 experiences, really immersive 360 experiences. And to maintain that, you just got to keep up with that website, keep up with any updates within that website, make sure your URLs work, and then you're able to take that URL and send it off to the people that you want to share that experience with. When they see it, they could work it on their desktop, click around, move around in that 360 experience. If they have a phone, they could hold it up and actually feel like they're inside the experience. Or they could put on the glasses, the cardboard glasses, and get even more in depth. That's the easiest part. And that's a very good way of dipping your toes into VR. A lot of people are wondering, oh, how can I start this? How can I do this? I don't have the budget. You don't need a budget. You need a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. You could go to YouTube and find some great experiences, but you would need something to view the content. And if you want to use a mobile device, I like to use the world's smallest VR glasses. They are these little foldable glasses that you can find on Amazon. If you type in world's smallest VR glasses, they make great giveaways. They make great impromptu VR experiences. Because I'm always out and about. I have my pair with me at work, and something pops up and I want to check it out in VR. I just slide it into my smartphone and I hold it up, and it gives me the really cool VR experience without having to put on a full headset. And a question from Jack, Debbie Richards. Yeah, something like that. Gave out at TLDC 19. If you Google VR glasses, world's smallest VR glasses, that will give you a really in-depth listing of different prices. So the next thing, beyond simple desktop VR and Google Cardboard VR, is standalone VR. Over the last couple of years, Oculus has come out with something that's really radical. They came out with a standalone VR headset. You don't need a computer to run it. You don't need to put it inside a special Google Cardboard viewer to view it. You just put on the headset and it's there. The two models that they have right now are the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Go. That seems so far away, but it was only last year that the Go was released. Anyway, those are great experiences, but with using those headsets, using those standalone headsets, things get a little tricky because you start getting into purchasing VR experiences versus creating your own VR experiences. When you create your own VR experience, you send out a URL. Some tools that are friendly to cardboard viewers, desktop VR, are not so friendly when you put on the headset. I found that out the hard way with one of the tools that I use, the tools that I really preach about, DSS.io. It's a real simple 360 experience builder. But I found out earlier this year that it doesn't work in the Oculus Quest or Oculus Go headset. So when you're dealing with the standalone headsets, you got to figure out, okay, how I'm going to purchase experiences for this. Because there's only so much you can do with the free apps. I love the free apps. I love that I can go in and check out an interactive flying movie of one of Dali's famous paintings. That thing is a trip. I really love it. But pirate cannonball shooting, roller coasters, those are fun and all, but they don't really teach us how to use the headset. They're not really applicable in the training environment other than this is how you operate a headset. I love telling people just have fun with it, check things out, and then come back to me and we'll work on the training aspect of it. But once you get to the training aspect of it, you're going to have to figure out, okay, I mentioned earlier, you need to purchase apps. Which account are you going to use? Oculus runs on a local sign-in, not local sign-in. You have to sign up for an Oculus account in order to purchase apps. The organization that I was at previously wouldn't allow me to put app purchases on a P card or purchasing card, so I would have to get reimbursed for anything that I purchase for L&D purposes. You may come across a really cool application, something that is really awesome. In my previous organization, I saw an interactive app that allowed people to do chemical chain reactions. For those of you who don't know, I come from a higher ed background, and L&D has recently switched to corporate. So my mindset is still kind of in that middle. I still know a lot about higher education. I'm learning a lot about corporate. In order to get that chemical reaction app onto the Oculus headsets, the standalone headsets, we had to figure out a way to bypass Oculus's app store. I like Apple in the fact that I can install apps from the Apple App Store. They're clean, they're good, and well, I'm going to put good in quotation marks because some apps are really bad. But it comes from a quality source. I can't install apps from other places unless I jailbreak my phone. We had to jailbreak the Oculus headsets. And in order to jailbreak that, we had to turn the headset and the login for the Oculus website into a developer account. If you Google sideload Oculus Quest, it will give you instructions on how to create a developer account, on how to set up your VR headset so that you can transfer applications from one place to another, or applications that have been given to you by a third party onto your headset. It shouldn't be really complicated. It is something that should be as simple, okay, open up a file browser. I want to put this inside the headset, open up the headset, and then find where it is in my listing of applications. It's not that easy. But there is a great website. I'm going to have to do a quick search for it, called Sideloader, which will allow you to quickly set up your Oculus headset so that you can add content, sideload content into the device. I might have to do that in the Slack group because right now I am working off a different machine and I'm not comfortable with everything here. So the biggest thing about the standalone headsets, purchasing apps, how to sideload content into the Oculus headsets, the standalone Oculus headsets, and to actually manage them. When you open up the Oculus box, it has a nice presentation. It's packaged very nicely. You need to set it up with a smartphone so that it can connect to the internet and do all the updates. There isn't an enterprise solution that will allow me to say, okay, I got this headset, I got the serial number, I want the serial number to be connected to my company. And from there, I want to push out updates from my company to that headset. It's not a solution yet. It's coming down the line. Facebook does acknowledge that it needs an enterprise solution, and it is offering it in an enterprise solution, but that solution is pretty costly. And if your organization doesn't have the budget for that, you may end up manually managing your headsets. So what does that mean? Well, in addition to setting up for the first time, any app updates, any system updates have to be done by you. There's no automatic update. There's no automatic, okay, we're going from this OS to the next OS. This is going to happen much like Windows updates that happen overnight or Mac updates that interrupt you when you're working. So when you manage those, it's a very hands-on experience. When I got the hang of it, I could manage 4 headsets in an hour, from erasing to reinstalling the operating system to reinstalling the apps that I wanted to use. When you're first starting out, it may take you an hour to do 1 or 2 headsets. If you got 10 headsets, that's a full day of work. If you got 20 headsets, that's 2 to 3 days worth of work, just getting them set up for an experience. The next phase of the VR management is the big VR headsets, the HTC Vive and Oculus Rift. Those require the headsets to be connected to a computer. Those require an investment in time and resources and money to get it off the ground, because the computer you use has to be a PC. It has to be capable of running virtual reality, which means lots of RAM, a good video card, and lots of storage space on a computer. Because the VR experiences, they're running off the computer, they're not running off the headset. The standalone headsets, those are all running off of the internal memory inside the headset. The Oculus Rift is running off the computer. And some of those experiences can eat up a lot of space on your computer. It's 20 gigabytes to install the Oculus program on your PC. Then depending on the experience, it could be 1 gigabyte, it could be 40 gigabytes loaded onto your machine just to check out that one VR experience. When you get your computer set up, let me take a step back. If you don't have a computer set up, if you don't have an Oculus Rift set up, you have to purchase a computer. If you do a search for VR-ready laptops, VR-ready computers, there's a lot that pop up. I'm partial to Alienware, just because when I open up the laptop to my Alienware PC, the keyboard lights up in rainbow colors. That to me is really awesome. I like simple things like that. But they have a range of computers that are specially built for VR. When you get your computer, depending on what your company does with computer setup, or if you're doing this on your own, expect to spend 4 hours to 8 hours updating computer with Windows updates, updating the Oculus software, updating the video graphics card drivers. It is really intense experience. In the fact that you have to sit there and wait for things to update and update and update before you can even put on the headset and try something out. Once you get done with that, then you can put on the headset, check out your experience, and start learning how to leverage the technology for L&D purposes, for empathy training, for healthcare training, for soft skills training. You can do that with the standalone headsets, but where you have a lot of power and a lot of play is when you go into that third realm where you got the Oculus Rift connected to the computer, because the computer can handle so much more. To produce content for the Oculus Rift takes a lot of resources too. Adobe Captivate does work. There are several applications out there that will allow you to create VR experiences for the Oculus Rift. You will have to pay a fee to get it to publish to Oculus friendly format. You can build your own experience using Unity, which is a free 3D application. It's kind of hard to learn. I'm still learning it myself. But it can produce some really fantastic experiences. Okay, Jack has a question. How long did it take me to learn everything? It was step by step. It took me maybe a year from the initial idea of incorporating virtual reality into professional development, and with my previous organization into the classroom of college students, to finally getting a computer, getting it set up, and getting it ready for VR experiences. So it took me about a year to figure all that stuff out. Of course, it wasn't every day over the course of a year, but all that, just playing around, just trying to figure out how to do good to the people that I'm trying to show this to, trying to train, trying to help out. Now, that is my experience with managing VR headsets. When you get to the, I'm going to come back to one more topic, and that has to do with the VR headsets that are connected to a computer. You run into the same thing as the standalone headsets, where management of the applications, management of the updating operating system, that's still a single user experience. There isn't a real enterprise solution for those headsets. Oculus is coming out with something for enterprise customers. HTC does have a headset specific to the enterprise, where it does have single sign-on through Microsoft Exchange, where you can add apps, where you can do extra management with that. But with that, that does come at a cost. And at the time, I did not have the budget to utilize that service. Once you get into the heavy-duty headsets, that's when you can start getting some of that enterprise solutions built into the headset. And all right, I got 7 questions here.
Hey, Alan.
Yes.
Those 7 questions are something that I loaded because I'm just going to hit you with all 7 of them right now, and we'll go through this real quick because let's see. I know that we're going to keep this one a little bit short this morning. So Is that okay if we just do this? Because I'm just going to hit you really hard with these 7 questions.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. How many headsets? Oh, wait. Let me click my start answering button. How many headsets did you deploy for this project?
2 Oculus Rift S headsets, 25 Oculus Quest headsets, 2 Oculus Go headsets.
All right. So what is, 2, 25, and 2. So that's 29 headsets. So basically we could just round it off and say around 30 headsets. Awesome. And you used a Alienware laptop.
Yep.
Right? And so you had to have like 4 additional laptops for the other 2.
We ordered 2 laptops because that would allow us to use the Oculus Rift in-house and send one out into the field.
Okay.
The classroom.
Okay. And the rest of the headsets were standalone headsets?
Yep, they were standalone headsets. 10 were designed to be set up for experiences and demos. So those got set up once and weren't touched except for updates. The rest were designed to be classroom headsets, specific experiences loaded on those. They could be wiped and customized for whatever the customer needed.
That's interesting. And sorry, and a lot of this is sort of my own interest, but like when you're talking about wiped, is that just sort of like reformatting them or?
Yeah, like reformatting a hard drive on a computer. On a VR headset, it's just taking it back to its original factory state when you took it out of the box.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe this is, oh, actually I'm gonna, because my next question is like, how did you manage the hardware? And I'm really curious about that. Like, because I've been to a couple expos, like VR expos, and I've always wondered, like, how do people like even clean them, or how much actual hardware management is required with these things? Did you guys have like, special VR wipes or something to if they're being used by different people, or did you clean them at all? Maybe I should even ask that question. I don't know.
Yeah, it can get kind of grody. We at the end of the day, we do wipe them down with Clark's wipes, but as people are putting them on, putting them off, we do have some wipes that you can wipe them off. But we also found that there are VR shields,
Oh,
disposable shields, like a face mask at the hospital, at the clinic. You put that on if you're coughing, but the VR shields, you put them on there like a mask, put on the headset, and when you're done, you take it off and throw away the shield.
okay.
With that many headsets, it does take up a lot of space, and we ended up taking up 2 cabinets just for VR stuff.
Right.
The computers, the VR, the equipment, the cables, everything.
Yeah, yeah. So, and this one is, I didn't have this question, but I just thought about it. How did you track to make sure that people were doing what they were supposed to be doing within the headset?
That is a great question. Are you talking about tracking? Do you want to make sure that they're doing things in the correct order, or tracking the hardware as they leave, or tracking how they use the software?
Well, that's great. All three, I guess.
All right. It's good to have a checkout system in place. It could be barcodes, it could be an Outlook calendar, resource, however you want to do it. But it has to be something that you can customize to say, all right, this is the headset, this is the number of the headset, this is the serial number, and this is when it was purchased. You want that information just in case something goes wrong with that particular headset and you have to send it in for repair.
Mm-hmm.
And then with your inventory control, it's however you set it up. Once you get into bigger numbers, 50, 100, then you might want to use a more sophisticated inventory control system, like WASP barcode scanners, and something that can really tell you, okay, this is in this building, this is in that building. Mm. As for tracking, Adobe Captivate does have takes that Adobe Captivate experience and puts it in a 360 environment. So you can track people as they progress through the experience. But if you were to put up a video inside the headset, or if you wanted people to go to a particular application while they have the headset on, you really can't see it unless you stream it to another device. Mm-hmm. With the Oculus Quest headsets and the Oculus Go, you can have it not only have the experience in your eyeglasses, but you can live stream it to your phone. Mm-hmm. That would be another way to track it, but it's a one-on-one tracking. It's right. It's not a heat map of where they're going.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually something we were going to talk about a little bit yesterday with Andrew Hughes and Duncan Welder, which was how tracking was going to impact sort of AR and I guess XR generally, like how people are going to be able to do analytics within the extended realities. Was that something that you guys ran into very often, or
not yet? We were just trying to get people to use them.
Right.
So they're comfortable with the technology.
Yeah, and it seems like it was primarily kind of like a more immersive. It was because you're just doing a lot of 360 video.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, very, very cool. So your experience, let's see, what was your experience with VR prior to all of this?
I'm a huge video game nerd.
Oh,
so this goes back to the mid 90s. I really wanted to have the Virtual Boy, which was Nintendo's first 3D VR headset. Now they've come around and they have a cardboard setup for VR with their Switch. You could get a cardboard thing, for your Switch and do VR that way.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I had produced a stereoscopic video for Tech Academy, which is in my past organization, a way to share technology of what's current, what's upcoming, and that theme was 3D. So I took 2 cameras, made my own stereoscopic rig, and tried to make a 3D movie. And by 3D movie, I mean classic drive-in, red, blue glasses.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So with managing all of these different headsets, was there like a common problem that you ran into? It doesn't even have to be one. Well, like 1 or 2. What are the most common problem that you ran into with managing multiple headsets like this?
The way that there's a couple ways that we organize the headsets. We would have one login and have that set up for maybe 10 headsets. We're kind of pushing the envelope as to whether or not that's cool in terms of app licensing and app licensing agreements. Where things got tricky is when we decided, okay, each headset has its own login. That gets a lot tricky because you can customize the experience per headset. You can purchase apps for that account in that specific headset, keeping in line with any app guidelines. But when you got 25 sitting at your desk and you don't have them marked properly, they all look the same.
Yeah.
The controllers look the same. Everything looks the same. So the second biggest problem is making sure that all your stuff is marked properly. I don't care how you do it with Sharpie markers, with duct tape, however it is, make sure that you have your headset labeled number 1. Your controllers labeled 1 left, 1 right. That will save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. And it seems like since the user is so isolated in there altogether, it's the experience itself is so individual. Having to deploy multiple, especially within a group, that just is, it just seems like it poses a bigger challenge. So the learning objectives of deploying all this VR in your organization. So what were the learning objectives that you guys had? Why did you bring this in?
It was a classroom pilot to see how the students would utilize VR. I don't know if I could get more into that because there's a couple other things, but I don't know if I'm able to discuss them. But the way that I feel about the project, we were looking for a way to enhance distance education. So not only are we just saying, hey, we got this medical VR app, take a look at the heart. We're trying to figure out, okay, how can we use this to teach students? Not just only the experiences of the 3D heart, but go in and have a classroom on a weekly basis to teach students. So, we're putting our feet wet in that general direction, getting our feet wet in that general direction.
Okay. All right. And so, I mean, did you see any success, or is there anything you could talk about there that was particularly that might sort of stick out for you? Something that a win that you had?
All the VR headsets came back. We loaned them out to students because the professor wanted to have the students play around with it and then come back and talk about the experiences. So everything came back and everything came back working. That's probably biggest number 1 success because, all right, we can trust more students to do this. We can trust more faculty to do this because things are coming back. The second biggest one is watching the students and learning about the VR experiences and seeing how that they could use it inside of their projects or within the professor's curriculum. Because it's not only just Beat Saber or was it Vader Immortal, which is very awesome, 2 awesome things. If you haven't done those yet, do it now. But then you get into that, okay, it's not just a toy. This is a tool for what I'm going to use when I enter the workforce.
Interesting. Okay, and I know that we've got to stop in a second, but
Mhm.
just really, really quick. Aside from the 2 books that I sent you, what resources did you use to deploy this? Was there anything in particular that you find yourself going back to regularly to as reference guides? Anything, or was this all just hands-on experience?
A lot of it is hands-on. A lot of it is a Google. In terms of building stuff, that's where the books came in, and thank you very much.
I have access to books, so it was no problem. I was happy to send them to you.
But in terms of managing them, in terms of, okay, how do I get this on this app, and how do I get this loaded on this headset? That was a lot of hands-on experience and a lot of Googling and making sure that my Google search results were current, as in within 6 months.
Yeah, Google is your friend. And there's sort of an interesting thing. I got tagged into one of Craig Seibert's, like, I don't know, what is today, Thursday?
Yeah, BS Thursday.
Yeah, BS Thursday, about multitasking. And it actually like speaks to sort of what we're talking about with VR. Is like you can't really multitask when you're in VR.
Oh.
I mean, you can't be listening to music in the background and doing some other stuff and have like a bunch of tabs open. You've actually, like, once you're in that experience, you are in there. And so from a learning perspective, that's pretty important. Like you're just focusing in on what is being presented in front of you. So I wanted to just throw that out there. And if you guys do hashtag BS Thursday on Twitter, you'll find out what we're talking about. But anyway, Alan, thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm so glad that we got to have you on again. If you guys, there's Alan's contact information on Twitter. Where else can they reach you? I know that you just switched over to this new job, so you're probably super busy nowadays.
Yep. I can be reached on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. I also can be reached at LinkedIn at the same handle, whatever the sharing name / Natachu. Alan.Natachu on Instagram. I like to work out loud and I like to share what I'm working on. So I tend to document what I'm doing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 3 big ones. And if you want to get more in depth in this, if you want to chit chat more, you can find me in the Slack group, TLD Cast Slack group.
Excellent. Thank you for pushing that out. And just so everyone knows, XR playlist, next week we have Debbie Richards and James Watson coming on for another session on XR. I am going to continue to program some of these sessions in because, I'm learning a lot more about it myself, and I want to make sure that the programming is really, really solid. So keep an eye on what's going on. But next week, James Watson and Debbie Richards will be here to give us more information about XR. And until then, you guys have a great weekend. World VR Day on Saturday. Watch our the social media and Slack channels. I may be doing a meetup in virtual reality. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks again, Alan.
You're welcome. See ya.